Okay. Today I'm going to be talking about the NSA issue recently. Not as much the actual logistics of it, again, as the kind of discursive responses to it in the on the internet, in newspapers, general stuff like that. So if you haven't heard, the whole kerfuffle with the NSA, National Security Agency, is that it has recently been confirmed that they have acquired from Verizon Wireless the record of pretty much everything that every phone on the Verizon network does. Um, this is a government administration, the National Security Agency is. They are saying they haven't, to my knowledge, they haven't issued an explicit statement of why they wanted to do this. It's the National Security Agency, so I'm presuming it's that, they're going to claim that it's for protecting us from terrorists or some such hoo-ha. But this entire thing infuriates me, to be honest. And Matt told me not to swear in this video, so I'll do the best I can to remain calm. But this is outrageous, for one thing. Yeah. Anyway, having concluded that little introduction, it seems to me that whenever something like this happens, and this being no exception, whenever massive amounts of information have been leaked to the government regarding the personal goings about of American citizens, there are three kinds of response. Number one, I call it the anonymous response, as in, like, literally the 4chan anonymous response. It is that the government is infringing on our constitutional rights to privacy. Which they're infringing on some kind of right, that's for bloody sure. But there's something to me deeply lazy intellectually about this position. I think there are two problems with it. Number one, privacy is an illusion. It always has been. The internet didn't need to exist for privacy to be an illusion. The very notion of privacy, I think, is flawed in that it kind of... Not that... I think that when most people say privacy, what they really mean is they... Like, what is privacy? Nobody really knows, right? There's no strict, or in any sense actually definable criterion by which one can say, I think this information... Like, there's no criteria to determine what information is private, quote-unquote, and what isn't. There's stuff like sexual orientation, which a lot of people think is private, but which, I'm heterosexual. I said it. There's tax records and whatnot, which I wouldn't say is private so much as it is a matter of, like, something that you... I don't know. It just seems as if the entire position of privacy, as opposed to, like, the entire public-private dichotomy seems to be very iffy and sketchy and just generally not well fleshed out enough. Secondly, within the framework of, like, rights and privacy rights and whatever the hell not, it seems as if the terrorists are going to attack us excuse actually would outweigh, the privacy of citizens on a regular, everyday basis? I don't think that they do, to be clear. But I think that within a framework that still acknowledges like traditional constitutional values as like the foundation of all governmental morality or whatever, I think that within that framework, the terrorists are going to get us actually does outweigh. So I think that the anonymous people, I think that Anonymous is onto something good. I just think that they need to do more work and be more creative in formulating a response to the government, which brings me to what I think is a more creative response to the government, which is the hipster, postmodernist, psychoanalytic, whatever, cultural theory response, which is that this is a systemic abuse. It's a manifestation of biopower or panopticism or capitalism, where you are the product and you are always already commodified and blah blah blah. This tends to be the school of thought that I subscribe to with regards to these issues. My question isn't so much, my qualm isn't so much with them having this information about me, as it is, why do they want it? That's the question that you have to ask. You have to ask, why does the government want this information, and what are they going to do with it? And furthermore, what system of social relations and whatnot, production and blah blah blah, allows for and leads up to this kind of thing? The answer to that question, I believe, is one in which people are numbers, essentially. The reason that the government wants you or wants to have your information is that they want to know how to appeal to you. They want to know what they need to do to make you vote for them. Blah 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 blah, to make the money. Now, why do you have to go to Verizon for this? Because if you are like the freaking government, couldn't you do that? Well, because the government and corporations are pretty much inseparable at this point. I sound like a crazy, radical, paranoid conspiracy theorist when I say that, but honestly, it's true. Politicians are elected based on their backing by corporations, and this brings me to what I think is the real kind of tragicomic element of all of this. Both these responses, the systemic violence response and the privacy rights response, are very... they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, insofar as they want to be involved in the internet as a field of like communications. They think it's a great place to put ideas together and have exchanges and blah blah blah, which there is a lot to be said for that viewpoint, but at the same time they want to engage in that system without, and they want to put their information out there, give it to Google and blah blah blah, but they don't want the government to have it, and they don't want corporations to like swap information or whatever, and they most certainly don't want you to advertise to them, because that pisses them off. They want to watch cats, trying to eat bugs instead of Verizon Wireless. But it's all very complicated. But I think that this doesn't really make sense, right? I partake in the internet, but I do so with the knowledge that the government is constantly watching me. I think it's a trade-off. I would prefer if the government didn't watch me, but I am aware of what I'm getting into, I think. Essentially, this whole problem to me boils down to, if you're going to tell corporations what you're doing on the internet, or if you're going to tell Verizon Wireless what you're going to do on the internet, if you're going to be plugged into the system, then expect the government and the National Security Agency to monitor you like in 1984. Because, essentially, telling corporations like Verizon what you're doing and not expecting them to tell the government is like telling you know, your deepest, darkest secret to someone in freaking junior high school and expecting nobody else to ever find out, right? That person's going to tell their best friend who they trust, who's going to tell their best friend who that they trust, who's going to tell whomever because that person wasn't trustworthy in the first place, blah, blah, blah. It's a massive chain of command, and it's a real paradox, but such is life. And the final response, discursive element, that I think we've seen a lot of in the wake of the NSA flustercluck is the what I call the good old G Bush, George W. twist. This is what Mayor Bloomberg said. We need to have these records because the terrorists will get us if we don't. Yeah, of course this is stupid. Of course this is paranoid, and of course there are ulterior motives behind it. Because, first of all, 99.99% of what's being sent over these, like, messages that the government are intercepting are, like, stupid cat videos, or sexts, or, like, people, doing whatever stupid things they do over text message. So of course the government is using this as an excuse. But I think the really tragically ironic thing about this response is that a lot of people probably feel the same fear and securitizing paranoia that justifies this response. I think a lot of people are against it on a gut level, but I don't think that the vast majority of people really possess the knowledge of political philosophy or the language really to articulate their discomfort with this. So they say that they're against it, but honestly they don't know how to break free of the popular discourse about this. And I think that's a real problem. Again, failure of imagination and whatnot. So yeah, I know this video has been long and rambly and blah blah blah. Yeah. But I hope you can divine some sense out of it.